So you now have the one and only case in the whole country where there is not only no reasonable doubt as to their innocence, but no doubt whatsoever of their innocence, that are not receiving any aftercare at all. They're not receiving counselling, they're not receiving help. Doesn't the system owe them one? Doesn't it owe them a life? The life that was stolen from them. The abuse of human rights here is unconscionable. And this doesn't take into account the suffering of the victim's family. Lynette's mother, Peggy Pasticcio, is a very, very courageous woman. In 1995, I found evidence relating to the DNA that showed a serious error had been made in the elimination of the person who was the prime suspect. The thing about this is, the amazing thing, or one of the amazing things about this case is, the police had a prime suspect. This man was a white paedophile who could be linked to some of the witnesses in this case, who had had similar injuries inflicted on him as were later to be inflicted on Lynette, who had a proven gripe against women and prostitutes in general, and had used Lynette. There was no doubt why this man was the prime suspect. It later turns out that he was innocent, but bizarrely, the police investigate this guy scrupulously and conscientiously, and they eliminate him quite properly in terms of the information they had at that time. The very next day, the investigation switches back to the Cardiff Five, and they forget about it. They forget about any level of professionalism and integrity, and they start an inevitable process that leads to one of the most despicable convictions in British history. Now let me turn this around for a minute. Does any of you believe that if the police were looking for a black paedophile who could be linked to some of the witnesses, and there was strong circumstantial evidence against him, that they would eliminate this person and then decide, we'll have 5 white guys instead? Does anybody believe that could happen? No. Turn that around, and it is exactly what happened in this case. Change black for white, and that is what happened. Now, the irony of this case is, if the police were determined to frame somebody, if they had framed him, they would have got away with it. There would not have been the investigation into what went wrong. There would not have been the humiliation of having to admit to being wrong at the same time as their greatest triumph of actually finding the real murderer. But in Peggy's case, she had to take the decision. Did she want to reopen old wounds that were going to hurt greatly on the off chance that it was possible to find the real murderer? She took the decision to do so. And together with me, we forced South Wales Police to reopen this case and conduct novel DNA tests at that time. Unfortunately, it didn't succeed then, but it carried on, and eventually the police reopened this case, set up a new unit, investigated it thoroughly, and eventually found the real murderer. But they haven't had the decency to apologise to Peggy in the same way that the original defendants received a written apology from the Chief Constable. She did not get an apology. Where is she supposed to put the hatred? In 1988, when these 5 men were arrested, she was told, they definitely did it. We've got these evil monsters. They are going to go to jail for the rest of their lives. There's no doubt about it. They'll never get out. 2 years later, oh sorry, 2 of them have been let out, but we still got 3 of them. They're going to spend the rest of their lives in jail. 2 years after that, oh, we're really sorry. The 3 of these have got out as well. But don't worry, all 5 of them were really guilty. We're really sorry. We were cheated by this cowardly criminal justice system of the rightful convictions. Then her life enters complete limbo. Nobody is being punished for one of the, what was there. Well, not at that stage, because the murder of Geraldine Pott was even worse. And that happened just after the convictions of the Cardiff Three, but it was still one of the worst murders in Welsh history and even British history. For the next 3 years, nothing happens. Then I say, I think I know how to find the real killer. It is possible with DNA to actually find out who really did this. And she allows me to help, and we actually get to the point of doing this. And it goes on and on. Then, in July 2003, the real murderer pleads guilty to the murder of her daughter. What is she supposed to feel now? Where is she supposed to put the hatred, 15 years of hatred of the wrong people? Where does she put the guilt that she feels now for having hated the wrong people for 15 years? How is she supposed to rebuild her life? Where's the support for her? I thought this government claimed that it cares about the victims of crime. Where's the aftercare for her? Where's the concern for her human rights? Where is the concern for victims' rights? And this is the real tragedy of these cases. Every single miscarriage of justice has a Peggy Pasticcio suffering as well as a Tommy 3. Thank you.